What's up guys, I'm back with another video. Today's video is 5 terms to help you communicate better with your producer or engineer. So there's often a lot of miscommunication in the music business, especially between artists and producers or artists and engineers due to, a different level of knowledge of engineering lingo or producing lingo that the artist usually lacks. So the purpose of this video is to help you get some more knowledge so that you can better your communication and productivity with your engineer, which will ultimately lead to a better relationship. And this happens with me often. As many of you know, I'm an engineer, so there's often instances where I have to explain things to my clients or explain things to prospective clients that really shouldn't need explanation. And so I thought I'd make this video so you guys can get some base knowledge of things that are really important to know when chatting to an engineer or producer. The first term is stems. When an engineer asks you to send him or her stems, what they're asking for is each individual element of the song sent to them separately so that they can manipulate them individually. I'll put up a little video here of how to export stems from FL Studio, but it's pretty similar on other DAWs, and it's a 2-minute Google search and you'll find the answer to how to do that. It's a really important term to know because not only will you be discussing stems with engineers and producers, but also fellow artists that you might collab with. They might ask you for stems to be sent to them so that they can work on the track more in detail, and so it's really important to know just in the music business as a whole. This leads us to term 2, which is adore. Yes, I know, my funny accent, as Americans would say adore. It stands for a digital audio workstation. A couple examples of this would be FL Studio, Logic, Pro Tools, Reason, Cubase, and obviously FL Studio is my favorite, but a lot of these are really good places to create music in. Once again, it's important to know what a DAW is because it's a really basic term in music production, and you really don't want to come across as an amateur when discussing things with a new producer or engineer, or even someone that maybe you're not working with yet but you want to work with. Not knowing these basic terms really is not going to put you in a good place when chatting to someone about potentially working together, especially if they're knowledgeable and skilled and someone that you want to work with. If they notice that you don't have very basic knowledge of basic audio terms, then it's not going to work out. Number 3 is a double, EQ and compression. So you really just need to know the basics of how EQ and compression works. You don't need to know every fine detail about them. But I think they're important terms to know. One of my biggest pet peeves is when people mistake compression for autotune. And I get this sometimes from my clients. Me and my friend also host a stream on Sundays called The Bounce Test. Shout out The Bounce Test. And we get music submissions there. And often people will be chatting in the chat and, giving their feedback on the songs that they're hearing. And a lot of people, it comes up where they say, really like the song, but just too much autotune for me. Or there's too much autotune on this song. And it frustrates me because it's songs where there's not a lot of autotune on, and what they're actually hearing is just very compressed vocals. And because they're not, they don't know what the difference is, they think it's compression. So please don't be one of these guys, and please learn the difference between autotune and compression. Thank you. It's important to know these 2 terms because if, you get a mix sent back to you from your engineer and there's something that you're hearing that you're not quite liking, you can describe this better if you understand what EQ and compression are. You might say, for instance, can you bring some more low end back into my main vocals? Or for those background vocals, can you use a phone filter on the EQ? Or on the bridge vocals, could you maybe compress them a little less on them to be a little more bouncy? Things like that. Number 4 is plosives and sibilance. So plosives are the explosive p and b, P and B sounds that you get when rapping or singing. And the way to negate this, to get rid of this, would be to use a pop filter. They're relatively cheap, and every recording artist should definitely have a pop filter. It can also be taken away in post, but it's better to obviously take away as much as a problem in the recording process as you can. Then sibilance. Sibilance refers to the harsh S sounds that you hear in recordings. And the way that we take this out is typically in post-production with a de-esser, which is a plugin. It's actually become quite popular in some genres of music to not use de-essers. I know Billie Eilish kind of popularized this a couple years ago. You know, she has a very soft, whispery voice, so the S's are not as harsh. As opposed to if you're a loud recording artist, or you're rapping or singing pretty loud, you're definitely going to hear those S's coming through, and you definitely want to get rid of them. So there are two reasons that you want to know what plosives and sibilants are. Firstly, an engineer might ask you to use a pop filter on your next song to help get rid of the plosives, and if you don't know what a pop filter is and you don't know what plosives are, you're totally lost in that conversation. Another reason is you might want to bring something up to your engineer about the sibilance. So you might say, hey, I'm hearing a bit of sibilance on my main vocals in the chorus. I was wondering if you could de-ess them a little harder to get rid of that. And then boom, great communication and the problem solved straight away. The fifth and final term is muddy. Muddy refers to frequencies that you hear between 200 and 500 hertz that are unclear or unpleasant to the ear. Damn, that shit rhyme, bro. The reason you need to know what this term means is because an engineer might bring this up to you and say that, I'm hearing some muddiness in your vocals around here. What is around this section? What does your recording setup look like? Or you might want to bring something up to your engineer again and say, the piano sounds a bit muddy in this section. And it really is like a trigger word for engineers. When they hear muddy, they know exactly what you're talking about. So it's a good word to use as long as you know what the phrase means. Yeah, it can help communication. So there you go, guys. That's the end of the video. Once again, the underlying goal of this video was to help you guys become more knowledgeable in these terms so that you can seem more professional to the producers and engineers that you're working with. And the purpose of this video was to help increase your communication and productivity with your engineer, which ultimately will lead to a better relationship with your engineer, which will lead to better songs being made. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video.